Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. So, I guess we got enough sunshine outside to get the batteries charged up, but it rained for a while this morning, so slow start for the day. There's some timestamps for you. There you go. Welcome to Monday. What am I up to today? You guys are familiar with this bike and the fact that the key switch was hacked out of it. So I started spending a little time playing with it, and the first thing I did is I checked all the fuses and they were good. Then I put the battery to it and started tracing out wiring, and it didn't take long to figure out that the black and white and the ground are basically for turning the engine on and off. They have nothing to do with the 12-volt system. So that didn't take all that long to figure out. Then the red, pure red, and the red and the black, I spent a little time fooling around with them and checked the fuse box, and I discovered they went to the fuse box, but I still wasn't getting 12 volts, so I took the fuses out and cleaned them and poked them back in, and suddenly I was getting 12 volts on each one of those, the red and black, which was good. So that means I figured out 4 out of the 6 wires. Obviously, you don't want to ground the black and white and the green one, because that's how you turn off the motor. But if you do want to turn off the motor, all you have to do is short those two together. So that I know from all the wiring harnesses I built between the pit bikes and the other Hondas and all that. So I figured that out pretty quickly. Then I spent a little time tracing this black wire out, and it looks like if you power the black wire goes to the fuse box and has a fuse on it, and then it goes and powers something else. So I'm like, oh, well, what's the use of having power go to the switch if I'm not going to do things like turn on the headlights and run the starter and junk like that? So if I want the bike to use the electrical part of the bike, the 12-volt part of the bikes, I have to take some of the positive and give it to that black wire. I don't care for the way they pick their wire colors, but such is life, right? I guess red stands for battery, and they're using black for load, so to speak. But I still got this guy up here, which is power, and I still got this guy right here, which I don't know what it goes to. And by the way, if any of you guys have a good website for getting all-terrain vehicle schematics, please let me know. And if that website is ATV Forum, for some reason my computer won't go out there and talk. It'll show me the schematics from a distance, and then when I go to make them bigger, it takes me to another website and it tries to download a virus. So I don't know what the hell my computer's up to, or I don't know what's going on with that website. So if you guys know another website, some nice manual website out there, and probably there is one, I just, Google wasn't finding it, and the Microsoft Explorer wasn't finding it, but maybe one of you guys know. So anyhow, I then spent a few minutes, I showed you guys I bought a couple of these switches, so then I spent a few minutes playing with these switches. And basically these switches have 6 contacts on them, and they do the following. When it's off, it shorts 2 contacts together, which you would want it to do with the green, which is ground, and the black and white, which turns off the CDI unit. So when it's off, you want those two shorted together because that's how you turn off the bike. when you turn it to on, just on, not to start, what it does is it hooks up these two contacts together, which makes sense because you want to power the circuits on the bike. And then with this switch, when you turn it to the next click, it engages two more contacts, or the red and that guy with nothing on it. It engages those two, which would tell your starter to start working. So, given that I've wired it up as we've just described, take note when I turn the key to an on position, what happens? Whoa, lights come on. Gotta like that. And check out what happens here. This is one of the lights that would be in the grill, and you see the 12 volts there. And then if I turn it off, right, the 12 volts goes away. So I'm feeling really pretty good about this. And then now that it's on, if I push the starter button, feel pretty good about that too. And if I turn it off, God, I gotta love that. Homie likes that. So there we go, right? Put it in gear. Yeah, let's pop it in reverse, see what happens. I turned the gas off deliberately so it would run out again. So I guess I figured the wiring out, but I don't care that this red wire isn't hooked up. It doesn't bother me that much. At some point, I guess if I overload something, what I'm going to do is I'll blow the fuse that goes that's powering this guy. So I'm not sure why it's got an extra power wire. I am a little concerned about this white wire, which, if you look where the sun did not fade it, is actually kind of a pink wire. So I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time fooling around with that and looking around to figure out where it goes. I'm thinking it might have something to do with the cooling fan. Maybe they ran another whole separate circuit to protect the cooling fan, right? But the cooling fan wires, looks like it's not doing anything. So these are the cooling fan wires, and the cooling fan wires is not unexpected. You got green for ground, then you got a blue wire. I'm not sure what this module does for a living, right? I know what that one does for a living. That's my CDI unit. I'm not sure what this thing does for a living, though it's got a lot of the same wires as the CDI unit. Some of these guys actually use different CDIs for forward and reverse. That guy, the bigger guy, is for the forward gear. Some of them use a smaller one for reverse, and they build a rev limiter into it. So that could be what this guy does for a living. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just the little bit of time I have put into these, I've seen that, and actually my good buddy William Staton has pointed out some of that to me. Yeah, if this thing has trouble, eventually this will disappear and I'll run only on that one, and if that one gets into trouble, they'll both end up disappearing, and I'll run on the one like for the portable CDI box. There might, to turn, that fan doesn't run all the time, obviously, which means there's something that turns it on and off, some kind of temperature transducer on this engine. So what I might have to do is figure out if that's what these things do. Key switches. I bought these up at P&T Surplus. I think they were somewhere around $5 each. And they came with 2 keys. And what I like about them is I picked them out of his batch such that the keys are the same. So I actually have 4 keys the same. Because when I put a key switch on, right, and I go get a set of keys, I'd like the idea that I can drive this thing, or I can walk over and put a key in that thing and fire it up and drive that thing. So I don't mind having my keys keyed alike, right? If a robber steals a key and steals this bike or steals that bike, what are they going to do? Then walk back with the key and steal the second bike? Normally, if you find a key in a bike or you get a set of keys, you try them in the best bike first and steal the best bike. And normally, you don't go back and keep taking bikes. Though they say the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime. So with my luck, he'd come back. Though, should he come back, knowing that the keys work in multiple bikes, there'll probably be a camera, which means I'll probably catch him. And given the fact that he has a key, I'd probably introduce him to a baseball bat until I get my stuff back. So, there we are. I hope this helps. If you really stop and think about this whole affair for a minute, what do you want? What wires have to go up here to this key switch? Well, you either have to set, I'm going to call them signal wires. You obviously have to send a set of wires for turning the motor on and off up here. And given the fact that these things don't need 12 volts to run, they would come up here and be on a separate circuit, as they are, right? So the green and the black and white, right? You separate them from each other, and it allows your engine to run. So that you know. The other thing you need to come up here is you need a power wire to come up here to turn on things like these lights, the headlight, right? All this other junk. So you need power to come up here. So that makes complete and total sense. And given that you got power up here, you need a load, right? Which is those lights and everything else. That completely makes sense. So as I was looking for the wires and I had that in my mind, it made it much easier to trace and much easier to look. Where are these wires coming from? How am I getting power up here? So now you go back to where the positive terminal hooks up and the fuse box and all that. So that makes complete sense. And then seeing how the black wire hooked into the fuse box, right? That actually made sense. I figured out very quickly that this red and black also was power, so that made sense. So the only wire I have loose and floating around that I have no clue of, and the reason why I haven't gone through a lot of trouble to trace it is because the lights work. Theoretically, my headlights would work, right? I got all my stuff working, so I'm like happy now, and I'm not all that dying concerned. But I'm thinking I got to figure out what this pink wire does for a living. I've put power to it and nothing happened, which also makes sense. If the engine isn't hot, nothing would happen if you put power to the thing that turns on the fan thermostatically. Or if the switch is blown, given that this is a 20-year-old bike, 30-year-old bike, given that this is a 30-year-old bike, that could also have a problem, which is why the fan didn't, or I can run it for a while, I can overheat the engine, and the fan still might not come on because the thermostatic switch. So I do need to figure out what this pink wire does for a living. This is getting to be a long video, but sometimes you go backwards and forwards trying to figure things out. On a lot of the China stuff, if you look at their key switches, they have pink wires. But almost none of the China stuff that I have, though there is a pink wire there, they don't have cooling fans. So it may or may not have something to do with that. So I told you guys where 5 out of the 6 wires basically go. And man, I really do love this, right? I love the idea that I can just turn the switch on and my little lights come on and I push the button and my motor fires up. It's out of gas again, so we're cool. It's getting to be a long video, so I gotta shut up. I can slam this in here, and I might just do that. But I also ordered a couple of 3 key switches. They're cheap enough. They were only what were they? Like $8 each with postage, with a couple with 2 keys. So I ordered them also because I do want to put a key switch on that guy over there for my son. And quite honestly, I don't want to give him this key switch because once again these 4 keys are the same, and I just as soon have that guy and this guy have the same key switch. Alright folks, I hope you found that helpful. Guys, if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll get back to you. I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your head up, and please get out there and enjoy all your days. Bye now.